All right, I've got 1 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and invite the students that are going to be a part of our next panel to go ahead and jump on the call. Thank you guys for each being here today. I'm excited to have this panel. I'm glad we could work this out, and especially excited to have the two of you guys that come from VCU to be here. In lieu of a script, I'm going to let you guys go ahead and just introduce your guys. I have you, Connor, David, Dan, Francesca. If you guys want to go in that order, that'd be great. But yeah, introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what interests you about blockchain.
Hello, thank you guys for having me. It's an honor to be working with you guys over at Virginia Tech. You guys are doing great things. I'm from the VCU Blockchain Club, and what really interests me and consumes most of my time is the decentralized finance space.
I'm David. I'm the head of partnerships at the Blockchain Club at Virginia Tech. Thanks again for having me on here today. And I'm also an intern at Flipside Crypto currently.
I'm Dan Barzik. I'm president of Blockchain at Virginia Tech. Honored to be on here with you guys. And I am really interested in making blockchain more accessible and am fascinated by decentralized technologies.
My name is Francesca. I go by Franny for short. I currently manage all the marketing and media at VCU Blockchain. And I like more so the macroeconomic view of decentralized technologies and decentralized finance, as well as blockchain education. And thank you for having me today.
Yeah, welcome all. I'm really excited that we were able to get this together. I think it's really interesting to hear the student perspective. I certainly, let's walk through a bit of the schedule of what I kind of planned for our time here. First off, I think it'd be cool to hear a bit about some of the efforts that each of your guys' clubs or potentially even education things that are going on at your independent schools. Then maybe we could go into some questions about kind of your own specific interests and what's going on in the crypto space. And certainly some of the things you guys said there in the intros invite some questions from me too. So if you want to start out, let's let our guests go first. And VCU guys, would you be willing to tell us a bit about what's going on with your blockchain club, some of the things you might be proud of, projects that you've got going on, or anything you've got happening?
I'll let Connor take that one if he wants to go.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, ours is very focused just on like more general education. I was talking to like a lot of different blockchain clubs around the country, kind of realized that different blockchain clubs have their own niche. And VCU is a very diverse school. I'm from the finance business school, so is Francesca, but we have other members from the arts school, the medical campus, the engineering and computer science school. So we realized if we want to be as inclusive and engaging as possible, it's best to keep a very broad general education. So we have workshops. We just had a meetup the other day, an event with the Chief Innovation Officer from the Federal Reserve. We have a podcast, we have a newsletter. So we're just all about putting content out there and really helping people onboard into this space. And then within our club, different people are working on different projects that relate to their own specialized interests.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's definitely more of an interdisciplinary approach we take because of VCU. We're so diverse. And again, like Connor was saying, we have so many art students, that could definitely, do something with NFTs, but then also we do have engineering students and even medical students come out, a wide range. And I like to say that we are student-led, but we're not student exclusive. So we really do welcome everyone to our virtual meetings and in-person meetings. We kind of try and do hybrid with guest speakers and then also do in-person events as well. And again, having it be more content created, like Connor said, we have a podcast, we have a newsletter, and those are all headed by students, but we welcome, outside guests to come in and, have their input as well. So yeah, that's what we're kind of all about.
Sounds great. David, Dan, you guys want to add a little bit about what you guys are doing and how the club's done? And this is your guys' founding year, right?
Right. We started in the fall. And yeah, just like VCU, taking an interdisciplinary approach. That's kind of what blockchain is perfect for, because you can combine so many different industries and majors. And that was kind of our goal, is just to get as much as the campus involved as we can and teach everyone. The goal is have everybody know what a blockchain is on campus. So we just got back from Lion Hack at Columbia University, our first hackathon experience, and everyone had such a blast. We'd really like to continue that next year and go to hackathons, host our own hackathon, and really just, continue to create a community here.
Yeah, I think as Dan said, we want to bring this to as many people as we can. It's a space that I feel like the more you learn about it, the more interesting it gets. And so we want to be able to provide that foundation layer for beginners, and then also have a little bit more detailed stuff for people who are looking to get more involved. So approaching all skill levels appropriately.
I'm going to actually take a self-interested question of sort here, and ask really both groups, so I may know a little bit more about the Virginia Tech side. What kinds of ways have you been able to put blockchain into your formal degree curriculum? Have you had some classes that you've been able to do? Have you had some other ways that you've been able to get exposed to it that's kind of nested within whatever degree you might be seeking? And you might state your major before you get going on that too, because I agree with you. It's a very interdisciplinary field.
Yeah, I can answer that. I'm computer science major, and in the fall, I took a senior seminar, and the alternate version of that senior seminar is like an entrepreneurship version. So our first guest, we would bring in Hokie grads to come in and talk about entrepreneurship from a CS perspective. And our first guest was Greg Lee from NFT 42 and Block One. And there's kind of an entrepreneurial energy around blockchain. So that was perfect exposure from an entrepreneurship class, seeing where these disruptive technologies are taking over. And there's Greg right now.
I'm a business information technology student at Virginia Tech. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to incorporate it too much into my degree per se, but I've been looking for opportunities outside of Virginia Tech, and was lucky enough to start with Flipside Crypto, which has been great since January. I was excited that Virginia Tech put together the blockchain certificate program. So that was great. And one thing I did to learn a lot more about this space is I took a certification class from EDX from UC Berkeley. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there, even outside of school. And I think that's the beauty of this space, is that you can learn from anyone or anywhere. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I'm a fintech major, financial technology major with a concentration in engineering. And I would say that it's very much treated like finance, traditional finance means. And I'm trying to get more blockchain integrated in that program. But as of now, blockchain and cryptocurrency is only offered at the graduate level at VCU. And, I would more so in the future like it to be offered for undergrad, or having that certification for blockchain at Virginia Tech. That sounds awesome. I was just looking at that a minute ago. So again, I would say it's still a working effort. Even when I was being interviewed by the people I want to intern for, they were like, yeah, how is blockchain being taught at your school? And I'm like, it's not really being taught. Everything I kind of learn is just off the side, and I'm just very passionate about it. So that's kind of how it looks like for me.
Yeah. I'm a finance major. So I would say I learned a lot through my interactions with like different just DeFi protocols. That kind of really helped me with my major, just understanding finance hands-on. That's more like DeFi side than I would guess say blockchain. But at VCU blockchain, we've had a number of workshops We've been working with the entrepreneurship school at the Da Vinci Center on creating like a certification program. It hasn't been rolled out yet. We're aiming for next semester, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what VCU blockchain, what we try to fill in the work that we do is like we saw that it wasn't being taught on campus, especially to the undergrad students. So we kind of just try to fill that role in the work that we do.
All right, great. That's really interesting to hear. I think it's pretty amazing that you guys are doing this on the side, oftentimes with this stuff. And certainly, I'm excited to hear that you're kind of speaking up for. We'd love to see this kind of get woven into our degrees because I think that's a really powerful voice you guys have there. A couple things, just picking up on some stuff that I heard from the intro. Connor, let's stay with you. You talked about being really interested in decentralized finance. Is there some aspect of that that you've been concentrated on or something that you're hopeful to do in your career in the DeFi space? As a finance major, I assume that's something that's pretty directly correlated. Maybe it's not in your curriculum, but it's certainly in your field. What are you hopeful to do with that interest?
I just like learning. I started studying finance because I was just interested about how the world works. Everything kind of revolves around money. People wake up in the morning to go to work to earn money to pay the bill. So just understanding how, the macro of money works all the way down to the micro really fascinated me. And then I came across decentralized finance and I started asking myself, I was like, oh, why does finance have to be like this when it can be like that? And then I've been lucky enough, I have a job working in DeFi, just interacting with all the protocols. You learn a lot. It's very hands-on finance. So, I kind of see a future where finance can be taught in a classroom where, people are interacting with like testnets or something on these different DeFi protocols, or they use like paper money, but you're learning about finance hands-on because you're actually interacting with these money markets. You're seeing how interest rates are set. All these different things, taught about from a textbook theoretical perspective, you're doing them hands-on. So I'm excited to see, finance being taught in that way, a much more hands-on approach. And that'll really open up a lot more doors. As I feel like in crypto, there's so much opportunity right now that, this the most scarce asset right now is talent. So I'm really excited to see, how DeFi being taught in schools and how that will transition to people getting more real world opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on. I actually was just on a call maybe last month. There was an NSF discussion about blockchain education. And I think one of the big things they were kind of talking about is there really are no standards. There are no practices. Most of the people who are on the faculties at CS, this is very computer science focused, but would have gotten their PhDs or their, master's degrees when blockchain didn't even exist. So it's a very difficult thing for people to put their hands around. So looking to students and what you guys are already doing out there, I think is really, really inspiring. Another kind of thread to pull on from something I heard. Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys did when you went up to Colombia for the Lion Hack and kind of what you learned, what that process was like being up there in Colombia?
Yeah, sure. So they invited a bunch of schools to participate in this hackathon, and there were 3 tracks. So the first one was EVM, like building on Ethereum virtual machine. The second one was multi-chain, so building some sort of application that utilized multiple chains. And then the last one was for zero knowledge proofs. So that was the track that Harry and I chose to work on. And no matter what track you were working on, there were speakers in the morning from like 9 to 1 or so, just talking about the technologies that were either sponsoring the event or stuff we were building on. So there were some ZK seminars, there were some, just info sessions on chains like Polygon, the Manta network. And it was just like a great experience to walk around and meet other people from other clubs, because being in Southwest Virginia, like we're so far from, any sort of neighboring clubs, and just building that network of, we met kids from Chicago and Harvard and Berkeley, and, just building those relationships and connections now, because we're all so passionate about the same thing. It was really great being around such a such a fun, passionate, happy group of people that just want to build and just want to, learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you guys got the chance to go up to that. It's a really exciting opportunity. And certainly you're right. There's a bit of an isolation down here in Southwest Virginia. So it's great that you guys get to go into a bit more of a metropolitan area there. I'll ask my next question to Franny. You said that you were interested in macroeconomics, and that's kind of where you kind of see yourself heading. What kind of expectations do you have for your career, and what angles are you interested in? I know macroeconomics is really finally starting to put their hands around this. I mean, watching Janet Yellen start to speak a lot more about this kind of stuff. You're definitely getting Gary Gensler, speaking at Bitcoin Miami, I think, or at least kind of having some remarks around that. What are your interests in? Where do you kind of see your career heading?
Yeah, so I kind of like focused more about the big picture, like where is this all heading and how can this help? And I love how blockchain, it promotes this sort of inclusivity where it's neutral, and it's like at this point there's really no excuse, and you can take responsibility of your life. And that's like one of the main talking points I make to a lot of these students, even though it's still like relatively early. And I also make the point that because we are in America, we have all we relatively have a very privileged financial system. We have a line of credit, whereas a lot of these places they don't, and more so live under tyrannical government structures. And I kind of give them perspective on that and where blockchain technology can really thrive in that sense. In regards to my career, honestly, I can't put a finger on it because I've worked with NFTs. I'm working on a few other things, especially with Connor. And VC blockchain. So I'm kind of all over the place. Like I want to eventually would like to go into macro or in the financial sector, but I'm kind of approaching it more from a media marketing side, seeing how these DAOs market themselves, seeing what's going on in the Discord, maybe even making a Discord. What are these NFT projects doing? How are they promoting it? What is distinctively making a project successful versus those that aren't? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of projects that do fail, and that's the whole point of innovation, right? There's going to be a lot of failure in the process, and just kind of looking at it again, there's so much more research to be done, and it's just kind of being really, really observant. I don't take really any stances right now because I acknowledge that the space is still very young. I'm still very young, very little experience, but I'd like to be somewhere in that field.
Sounds great. Kind of similar topic zone, or actually, I'm sorry, Connor, I see you've got the hand raised. If you had something to add, go for it, man.
I think that was an accident. My bad.
No worries, just trying to be a good host. So what I was going to go to is David, similar to the kind of career question, you've gotten a chance to get your foot in the door there with Flipside Crypto and do an internship. Tell us a little bit about what that internship's been doing, what you've learned, and kind of how it's inspired you about what you want to do in your career.
It's been great. It's been a wonderful experience. I've been a part of the governance department at Flipside Crypto, which is one of the newest sort of areas within the company, and also an evolving area within the space as a whole. So I've been doing a lot of research for Flipside, particularly in DeFi, which I was less familiar with going into the internship, but after about 3 months now, I've gotten a lot more familiar with it, and it just, like I said earlier, the more I learn, the more interesting it gets, and also the more I realize I have to learn. So I've been very involved with governance and how we want to decide what DAOs we participate in and how we vote within those respective DAOs. And then thinking about, okay, what's the next level of governance within DAOs? How can we be at the forefront of the industry and provide an expert perspective on governance within the crypto ecosystem? So that's what I've been focused on a lot up until this point. Moving forward, I'm hoping to, I'm trying to figure out my niche, but I'm definitely interested in governance. Treasury management is something I'm also interested in, which also ties into research. I like to research and create theses about what protocols I think will be successful, And so, I'm trying to find my niche within finance, governance, research, and maybe even marketing. So we'll see where I go from here, but it's been a great experience thus far.
Yeah, great to hear. So, we've now mentioned DAOs a couple times, and would someone like to maybe give a definition of those? And also, if any of you guys have ever been involved in a DAO or some sort of an angle of to like what the potential is of those of DAOs and where those are kind of heading. And maybe I'll start with David, but if anybody has a clear, crisp definition on what they are, go for it.
Sure, I'll start, but obviously it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And I would say one of the core constructs is just this idea of direct democracy in terms of voting power. And it's this attempt at trying to be more inclusive in the occurrences within an organization, trying to drive value. And so there's a lot of ways to participate in DAOs, whether it's getting active in Discord and helping build, or whether you're participating in the forums and just driving good discussion, and then ultimately voting on proposals that you think should go one way or another. I think we'll start to see DAOs integrated into a lot of business. It might be a way to increase, even in the traditional stock market, increase shareholder voting participation. So we'll see how that evolves and what spaces adopt it first, but I'm very interested to see.
Yeah, DAOs aren't really my area, but I can try to explain them. It's almost like a flat structure for an organization rather than a hierarchical, however you say that word. But essentially, yeah, giving power to everyone involved in the organization based on their ownership in the organization. That's normally through governance tokens, cryptocurrency. So, the more you hold, the stronger your voting power. But if you have any in the network, you can vote on proposals. For an example, you could have a DAO to, bring people together and pick a charity to donate to. So you can vote on, okay, we want, X percentage of all of our money to go to this charity, and Y percentage to go to this charity, and Z percentage to hold for later, or to give out to people that are helping contribute to the network and, running these protocols and stuff. So yeah, the way I look at it is more of a flat governance structure rather than the typical, CEO, whatever, hierarchy.
Yeah, adding on to that, you asked if any of us are part of a DAO or if we're doing any work in that field. And I would say for me and our vice president at VCU Blockchain, we're part of a DAO called API 3 DAO. And basically what API 3 works to do is transition to using first-party oracles instead of third-party oracles to kind of really make the point across that you don't need all these intermediaries in between. And what we do is vote on proposals specifically pertaining to governance and then official proposals. And we're part of their university program associated in that. And it's pretty cool because you see how much power we have in a DAO. It's obviously, it's a very big DAO. So like the university program has their own specific wallet, and you see how much power that wallet has in terms of voting power. And we get notified about proposals monthly, and we come together sometimes virtually to talk about it with other universities as well. And yeah, that's one we are involved in particularly.
All right. A next question that kind of comes to mind is, I feel like students have their ear to the ground on kind of the future of where things are heading. You guys have probably heard of Bored Apes way before I heard of Bored Apes of sort and anything else. what are you most excited about in blockchain? What's the kind of ear to the ground moment for, like, where do you think's heading next, and what are the kind of exciting things that are happening either in the like art space or in, you know, uses of this, DAOs, things, you know, whatever it might be. What are you excited by?
So I like have played video games all my life, so I'm really excited about the play to earn, and also, you know, having your really owning your collectibles in video games. You know, gaming on the blockchain. You can take asynchronous games like rock paper scissors and turn them into turn-based games using zero knowledge proofs. So it's like really fascinating what this technology can do. And yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's really an expert in where this stuff is going. It's all it's all progressing forward, and it's really just, you know, some really cool projects out there all over.
Yeah, I would say I'm most excited for the things that we can't imagine yet. So I think about like the internet, you know, it was being built out a couple of decades ago, but now we're starting to get all these cool things in the past decade, like Uber, you know, Airbnb, DoorDash, things along that nature. So I think a lot of things that I'm seeing on the ground level is students are still afraid to enter this space. They still sit on the sidelines. You know, I can see a lot of the computer science kids, they still want to go work in big tech. A lot of finance kids still want to go work at big banks. But when they make that transition and want to come and work in this space, and that brain power, you know, being added into this space, it'll be a lot more smarter people working on a lot more harder problems. So that's when I think the things that are unimaginable today will start to, you know, come into fruition. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I agree. It's really kind of difficult seeing students go to other places when, you know, the job market right now for the blockchain sector is so like ripe, and like, you know, you can learn if everyone is still learning. And I always tell them, you know, even all of the top people who made all their price predictions in November 2021, December 2021, you know, Q1 2022 hits and they were all wrong. And it just shows that we are all still learning and we are all still together. And that, you know, with blockchain, it's actually, what I found it to be is a lot more flexible, because it's, you know, remote, and, you know, they do pay, and maybe you can even get paid in crypto if you really negotiate for it, because that's their whole ethos, right? And I guess another point is just seeing, you know, this sort of financial empowerment that can be brought to many in a way that they've never imagined before, and seeing other people finally, you know, get a hold of a system that can work for them, because code can't really discriminate in the way humans can.
Yeah, to add on to what Franny said with financial empowerment, that's one of my favorite aspects of crypto, and what I'm excited about for it moving forward. I'm hoping to see a lot of activism internationally. It really annoys me when I see the SEC protecting American unaccredited investors from earning yield on their stablecoins. I think that is unreal and is a great example of change that needs to happen in the government here in the United States and abroad. I think, you know, we're fortunate here in the United States, but many in different countries are not as fortunate for different reasons, and crypto can enable them to have a more secure financial future. So that's something I'm really excited about. I hope to see a lot of activism internationally, but I'm also interested to see how geopolitical game theory surrounding Bitcoin plays out. I think once the snowball starts going a little faster, you know, maybe we see Honduras, Argentina, Brazil, one of these countries start to adopt Bitcoin. I think it's only a matter of time before it's an international competition. And then I think that's when we see some interesting stuff play out.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a second shoe to drop per se in the way that like Bitcoin has kind of occurred. And I think it's had a little bit of like a ceiling on it there for a second, and it's certainly shot up there for a while. But I think there's a lot of potential for it, especially as it becomes a little bit, lightning kind of gets woven into it. There's a little bit more of a capacity for it to take off as something that can actually mirror something like a currency. Are you guys also all bullish on? I'm seeing some head nods there. Bitcoin, you're bullish on it. Would you buy Bitcoin tonight?
I'm bullish on what David was talking about, other countries adopting it, because once one goes, we'll start to see a snowball, and maybe. So yeah, get 1% of Bitcoin in your portfolio, see where it goes.
Yeah, me and Connor were just at the Bitcoin Miami conference, and it was absolutely incredible. The energy there, just to see Jack Mallers announce, that, and obviously so many senators and important people announce that they're making efforts to, make Bitcoin a legal tender in all these places, or if not just that, it's just, accept them in, businesses. And yeah, definitely very bullish. Again, the whole game theory thing also interests me very much, to see everyone's thesis around Bitcoin and see where it'll all go. And what's also surprising to me is it's like a lot of people maybe won't be around to see what really happens, but we will all be around to see what really happens. And that's it's going to be, again, very interesting to see that happen.
I think the advantages that blockchain and crypto offer are so undeniable that it's impossible not to be bullish, especially below previous all-time highs for coins like Bitcoin. I think the financial empowerment is something that you can't ignore, and for that reason, it's inevitable. It's hard for me to imagine a future where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are not entirely mainstream. But also noting that in order for crypto to go mainstream, I think we need to get to the point where people don't even realize they're using crypto to make a more user-friendly experience. But I think that's coming in the future. So.
Yeah, I just want to add something to that. David, when you just said, wait, what did you just say again?
That people don't realize they're using crypto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's someone at Lionhack brought that point up of like all these questions around crypto are not blocking us from using it, but once we have that that ignorance, I guess, of like we don't really care how this technology works, but we know that it does work for us. Once we get to that point with blockchain, people stop like worrying about the little questions that we can answer over time. Definitely start to see some adoption.
I definitely see the like crossing of the Rubicon at some point in time where that does kind of play out in the same way that like you just wouldn't think about writing a letter today. Like email has just become too convenient to even fool with grabbing a pen. It just doesn't make sense anymore. But yeah, I think those days are coming. So kind of steering it back to something you said a minute ago there, Dan. You talked about the importance of games and kind of growing up in the video game world. Talk to me a bit about the metaverse, kind of where you're seeing these things happen. I mean, you're watching Microsoft buy Activision Blizzard. You've got Facebook rebranding itself as Meta. Like these humongous institutions are effectively signaling to their boards, to the world, and like we realize that this is about to happen. And frankly, we're kind of potentially even ill prepared for it. Talk a bit about the metaverse and how you kind of see it from a generation that I think is probably what the Facebooks, the Microsofts are actually trying to prepare for.
Sure, yeah, that actually scares me a little bit. Kind of relating to there was a Jack Dorsey Andreessen feud on Twitter about these big conglomerates owning Web3 and owning the metaverse. It's interesting. I don't know if if they're putting all this effort into it because they believe in it or because they believe that's where the money is. So it's very hard to follow, the trends of blockchain if you're just looking at the big companies, because obviously there's, money behind their motivations rather than, the rest of the blockchain community, which is like freedom and, openness and stuff like that. So, I think if companies like Google and Facebook try to dominate Web3 spaces or metaverse, it's just going to turn into another centralized, space that just has this, blanket over it, calling it decentralized because it's different than what we're used to. But yeah, I'm not too in tune with the metaverse stuff yet, just because I'm a little doubtful of how it'll play out. But
I think we already live in the metaverse, right? Like we're all talking through Zoom right now. We all have social media. I just think that term metaverse is a new idea, but in all actuality, I think we've already been living in it to some extent. And now the tide is changing. Instead of being owned by these big tech companies, crypto is really promoting products and protocols that are user owned. So I think that's the big difference in where it seems kind of like FOMO. But I think we already live in this metaverse where, to a certain extent, right? Like we're really here talking through computer screens.
Yeah, I tend to lean and agree with Connor a little bit. I think the current hype around the metaverse is kind of overplayed. I think I've been playing in the metaverse for 10 years. I think Fortnite's a metaverse. I think Grand Theft Auto is a metaverse. I think, most video games are just some type of metaverse. And I think big companies that are like Meta, for example, entirely rebranding, I think is a bold strategy. But they're going to, I think Web3 is a lot more community based than conglomerate based. And so I think, the communities are going to pick the winners in the metaverse space, and there's going to be a lot of winners. But my suspicion is that the term metaverse refers more so the innovation of like virtual reality, and rather than the concept of the metaverse, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when new video games release, like what's the number one thing you notice? Oh my goodness, the graphics and your surroundings, it looks so real. And it's like kind of telling of where it is all going. I kind of tend to think that with like this metaverse, they put these huge $1 trillion valuations, and it's just something that pulls in all these companies, and they're like, oh my goodness, we're gonna profit off of it. So it's kind of like I kind of address it the same way with like Bitcoin ETFs or like the spot ETF that's just trying to come out and stuff like that. Like people also generally sometimes don't care about the big picture and the conceptual part of it, and they just want to make a trade or really just want to put themselves ahead to where they're relevant, and that's just what's going to happen. And because this metaverse term has become like the buzzword, and with a $1 trillion valuation behind it, what's stopping these people from just going all in? And I think it's kind of inevitable at that point.
yeah, what fascinates me about the blockchain gaming is the owning of like putting NFTs into the game and owning, actually owning what you own in the game. So like if you have a Fortnite skin or something now, it's obviously not yours, it's on their servers. It's, if Fortnite stops, it's not like you can pull that skin out and keep using it. But with NFTs, maybe you have a race car in a racing game, and that can, also be used as a like a picture as an NFT or something. So these multi-use NFTs, I think we'll start to see can really, unlock some cool things in gaming, like going to a NFL game, and the best player from that game, you get his NFT card or something you can use in a video game. So just like interesting, disruptive stuff like that we've never even thought about is becoming possible. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, to add on to that, that's one thing I'm most excited about. I kind of downplayed the idea of a metaverse, but I think a new decentralized gaming economy is going to be huge in the upcoming 2 or 3 years. The idea of being able to actually own your own Fortnite skin and potentially resell it on a secondary market, or even the concept of buying a game and then you don't want to use the game anymore, so you sell that on a new marketplace. Swapping V-Bucks, the local currency in Fortnite, into dollars in GTA, like in the same way that you can swap Bitcoin for Ethereum right now. I think these are all applications that's going to open up the gaming world a lot, and there's going to be play to earn, but then there's also going to be like an investment aspect to that, where players can either recoup some of the money if they're done playing a game, or they can make ludicrous money off of a good trade.
Yeah, I certainly think it's a rich playing field for sure. And I recently went to a presentation where someone was talking about like using your Jordans in multiple games or something like that, and having them be able to be compatible. I think that's really where you'll start to see like follow on, when you can actually migrate these things between Roblox to Fortnite to whatever it is that you also want to go to, or even that football game that you might attend virtually. I mean, the idea that you can take assets around like that, I think, is really fascinating. And I don't know, I mean, not to pile on too hard, but I'm wary of big tech taking on these kinds of things too. I think that is a serious threat, if not maybe the most serious threat to like maybe blockchain overall, but certainly to decentralization and some of the ideas behind it. I think it's rife with problems to think about these mega institutions taking over a lot of control there. I guess one last question I want to do is maybe just to flip it back to you guys and say, like, do you have not that we haven't already done this to some degree, but like, do you have an idea we haven't covered, an axe to grind, something that, just didn't fit into one of our discussions at this point in time? Keep it civil.
That's a good question. I can't really think of anything other than what we were talking about with getting more classes and more education. I think come on, Virginia Tech, like there needs to be a blockchain minor or something like that. It's too valuable and too exciting, and there's millions of adjectives to describe it, so get on with it.
I'm gonna add a +1 there. If Virginia Tech prides itself on being an engineering school, we need to start being a little bit more innovative and offer more opportunities in this new space that's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I would just say, in this space, it is what you make it. It's so new, it's uncharted waters for everyone. Everyone's learning together. So it is what you make it, right? You don't have to climb a corporate ladder for 20 years to be on the cutting edge. Just wake up and every day and use it as an opportunity to do more. Keep networking, and place will take you crazy places.
Yeah, again, come on, VCU. Like, we're not known for, things such as engineering. We're mostly known for medical or arts, but going straight into the space, it can definitely put us out there more and really embrace some of the talent that's here, because I know it exists. But also, a word to the big media spreading the FUD. It's not really reflective of what's actually happening in these spaces. And the New York Post came out with this stupid article, to say the least, of like how it was claiming that everyone in crypto exhibits is a psychopath. That was literally the headline. And it was just, there's a lot of FUD that's going to be out there, and continuously always be out there, because it's profitable for these media companies. But for universities like Tech and VCU to really put some of the resources into fostering these communities and these orgs and students will really show it's really going to show that prove these articles wrong and get students potentially ahead and employed given the circumstances of today's economy and geopolitical tensions.
Yeah, wise words from all, for sure. I've really enjoyed this panel. I want to thank all four of you guys for coming together to have this conversation. I thought there was potential for some really interesting discussions, and we certainly got into it. So, Dan, Francesca, Connor, and David, thank you so much for your time and bringing your perspectives here. I hope you guys can keep this collaboration going too between VCU and Tech. I think that's a really interesting kind of cross campus discussion or whatever it might be, maybe a collaboration on a project or something like that. So I hope you guys stay connected, and thank you each for your time so much.
Yeah, thank you, James, and thanks for leading the blockchain charge here.
Yeah, I think this minor, man, let's go. I don't know if Greg is still on the call, but I know he's ready to roll.
Oh yeah.
It's more real than you'd think too. I mean, I'm an instructor in SPIA, which is our public and international affairs. I think trying to bring some Pamplin folks, some political science people, some computer science, and just kind of stirring it around and having a class in each discipline or something like that would be truly incredible. If we have the pathways, I don't see why you can't have a minor in blockchain.
Right. We are in Blocksburg, so we got to make it happen.
Sounds like a plan. All right, well, we'll get to cracking on that, and hopefully here in the next Blocksburg, we'll at least have something to announce in that space, something like that. But
sure.
No promises. This change is tough in these bureaucratic organizations. But I'd love the conversation, guys. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely.